Welcome to another episode of Thorn's Jungle. It's Friday here, baby. Friday means cheat day for me, and I'm looking forward to it because I got some cool movies to watch. The new Beverly Hills Cop is out with the original cast: Eddie Murphy, Judge Reinhold, and that other dude. So I'm looking forward to that, and we're also going to watch a movie called The Castle, which is a it's an old Australian movie. It's like kind of the first successful Australian movie that was made. And it's just about a family and that someone's trying to buy their house off them to turn into like I don't know, an airport or something. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's a classic. So there'll be junk food and movies. It is freezing here right now. It's bloody the midst of winter. Although, it's still clear blue sky, which, ugh, but it's chilly in the shade, but warm in the sun. We're talking about 19, 18 degrees Celsius, which I guess is not that cold. Like really. Um, my brother come around this morning, and it's not my birthday for a few weeks now, but we like that. We buy each other stuff. If we see something cool, we'll buy it for each other. It doesn't have to be a birthday or anything, but he dropped this off as like an early birthday present. But I'm sure he probably would have bought it for me even if my birthday wasn't coming up. But I don't care about getting presents on my birthday. It doesn't really bother me. I don't care. Um, so he could have waited a few weeks to give it to me, but it would have done us no. It would have been no different anyway. And how cool is this? For use on YouTube, it is a 3D printed Tyrannosaurus Rex skull. And it's sitting on my desk right in front of me. It's so damn cool. How cool does it look? It's probably like a oh man, I don't know, 1/10th scale, I guess. Maybe 1/5. Yeah, probably bigger than 1/5, but it's awesome. I love it so much. 3D printed, there would have been a lot of plastic used for that. And I kept with the theme of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and my microphone holder today is a shard of T Rex bone. That's from the femur of an actual Tyrannosaurus Rex. Uh, so, yeah, it's not a T Rex episode, mind you. This episode is about cetaceans. Now, what is a cetacean, you wonder? Now, I'll tell you why I decided to do cetaceans, and we'll get into that later. But for those of you that don't know what cetaceans are it's an infraorder of uh, uh, artiodactyls. So it's a bit confusing. Artiodactyls is an order of placental mammals. We're placental mammals because we are mammals that were born with a placenta. The only ones that weren't were your monotremes, which are echidna, platypus. So artiodactyls are they're even-toed ungulates, which again, more confusing words. Basically, it's an animal that walks on two toes when planted on the ground. The rest of the toes are either five toes are either vestigial or tucked away somewhere. So we're talking about like hippopotamus and things like that. Camels, even-toed ungulates, things like that. They're normally ruminants as well. And believe it or not, cetaceans, which is an infraorder of that order, are whales, dolphins, and porpoise. They belong in the same infraorder and order as things like hippopotamus. And hippopotamus are actually whale, dolphins, and porpoises. Porpoise. That's their closest living relative, which is pretty cool. Most people think, oh, it must be a pig or something. It's got to be the closest relative to a hippo, but no, it's actually whales and dolphins and porpoise. Pretty interesting. And of course, within that infraorder of cetaceans, we have literally the largest animal that has ever existed, and that is the blue whale. Now, the blue whale was larger than any of the sauropod dinosaurs, and it still lives today. How cool is that, knowing that the largest animal that's ever existed is still alive and we can still see it? A blue whale can be 100 feet long, about 33 meters, I think is sort of the longest one they've ever found, and weigh 200 ton. Now, we are there is some conjecture behind if there were dinosaurs like your Argentinasauruses, your Dreadnoughtus, whether or not they exceeded the length of the blue whale. Some of them probably did. They probably got longer than 100 feet, but they definitely did not weigh as much as a blue whale. I mean, a blue whale's tongue alone is like heavier than like several elephants. Its heart is so big, there are valves in it that people can crawl through. How insane is that? I think it's something like their tongue weighs the same as like 9 elephants or 6 elephants. It's insane. And I remember in 2010 going to London, and I went to the London History Museum, the Natural History Museum. Such a cool place. If you ever get a chance to go because it is so cool. It's so old-fashioned museum. It's really awesome. But they had a full-scale replica of a blue whale. Now, our museum here in Western Australia has a skeleton of a blue whale, and that is impressive enough. But once you put the flesh, the skin, all the blubber onto it, you really get an understanding of the enormity of the blue whale. It was insane. It was like hanging up, and I remember walking up to the tail fluke of it, and I was like, this tail fluke is as wide as a small aircraft. It blows your mind seeing this thing. It's really cool. So, blue whale, biggest of the cetaceans, and also the biggest animal that's ever existed. I mean, you can't get much cooler than that. We get blue whales sometimes, well, often swimming off the coast of Western Australia. They're found in a lot of oceans. Sri Lanka's another good place to see them. So they're still knocking about, your big blue whale. Um, Now, on today's episode, I reached out and asked if anybody had some cool animal stories, interesting animal stories, and to send them over a voice recording. And I got two from Jen. So Jen was a guest on one of the safaris that Caveman Rob and I host. She was on the January one of this year, and Jen's awesome. She became a friend, and she's actually coming to on another one of our trips to Uganda. So that's what's cool about these trips. Like they're not. I hate calling her a guest because she's not a guest anymore. She's a friend. So it's awesome. You make awesome friends, lifelong friends. I don't think there's been a day since we got back in January that we haven't talked in the group messenger on WhatsApp. So it's really cool. Anyway, uh, Jen sent two voice messages of some interesting stories, and that's why this episode is roughly about cetaceans. I mean, I'm not going to go too scientific with cetaceans, but we're going to just talk about how interesting they are and how in bloody intelligent they are. How Australian was that? In bloody intelligent. So, without further ado, let's listen to Jen's first recording. I'll play that now.
Hey Adam, it's Jennifer. Hope you're doing well. So I've got a little story for your podcast. Several years ago, I did a vet tech internship at the Dolphin and Whale Hospital at Moat Marine Laboratory in Sarasota, Florida. While there, I worked with Simone, who was an juvenile dwarf sperm whale. She's stranded with her mother when she was a newborn. She still had fetal folds when she came into the hospital, so she was a day or two old at most. Um, Her mother sadly did pass away shortly after they were brought to the hospital. So Simone was an orphan when I worked with her. She was a lot of fun to work with. She was very inquisitive. She was intelligent and just brilliant to work with. And one of the things that we had to do with her was once a week we had to get into her tank, get her out, weigh her, draw blood, take measurements, check her eyes, do all of those things. And naturally, she, of course, did not like it. She did not like to be taken out of the tank, did not like to have her blood drawn. And she figured out very quickly that if we got into the tank with our orange fence panels, that we were going to put her on this stretcher, pull her out of the water, and do all those things that she did not like. So, one of the things about dwarf sperm whales is they can breath hold for approximately 25 minutes. And Simone had already reached an age where she could breath hold for 25 minutes. So, as soon as we got in, she knew what was going on. And as soon as we pushed those fence panels over to make a smaller pin in her tank, she took a big breath and went to the bottom of the tank. It was only about 6 feet deep, but you can't really wrestle a 200-pound tube of sausage off the bottom of a tank if she doesn't want to come up. So, what would happen was we would stand there holding those fence panels for 25 minutes. And two people would be inside that smaller enclosure with her. And when she came up to blow and take a breath, those people would grab a hold of her. It only took 2 times for her to figure out that when she came up to blow, they grabbed her. So the third time that we went in to get her out of the tank, of course, she immediately went to the bottom. She swam around at the bottom for 25 minutes ish, 25 minutes or so. And you could always tell when she was getting ready to come up because her swimming would get much more frantic. She would start moving much more quickly, and you could tell that she was running out of air, but she knew that we were going to grab her when she came up, so she was getting a little bit worried. So the third time, instead of rolling up in the typical standard way that whales do, roll the nose up, roll the back, and fluke and go back down, she came up entirely vertically. She came up straight from the bottom, just allowed her blowhole to make the tiniest break in the surface, took a breath, and went back down. So we missed her entirely because we were not expecting that behavior from her. And we had to stand there for another 25 minutes waiting for her to need another breath. And that is the story of how a baby whale discovered a brand new learned behavior in 3 attempts while in while in treatment. It was amazing, and she was an incredible animal to work with.
How cool is that? I mean, just the fact that rescue places like that exist and can facilitate a baby whale is awesome enough. But like, how incredibly intelligent must an animal be to learn that in only 2 or 3 attempts? It's mind blowing. And this is a young whale, a baby whale. It's so it realized that there is a negative association between coming to the surface and breathing and then being caught for her health checks. I mean, the dwarf sperm whale doesn't know that it's all for the greater good of her. It just thinks that this is a negative experience, so I need to find another way to breathe without getting caught. And only that many attempts to learn to come up like that and just breach a little bit enough to take a breath. I mean, that's fascinating. Like, whales are incredibly intelligent. We don't give them enough credit, and we're still learning about the intelligence of whales. Now, for those that don't know what a dwarf sperm whale is, it's not a sperm whale with dwarfism. It's a completely separate species. It's not even in the same genus as a sperm whale. Sperm whale's scientific name is Phyceta macrocephalus, which is pretty cool because macrocephalus, macro, large, vast, big, macro, and cephalus, encephalitis, things like that. Head, large head, it's pretty cool. But yeah, dwarf sperm whales aren't in the same genus. They only really grow to like 7 feet, maybe 8 feet max, and that is fully grown. Whereas a actual sperm whale will be, you're talking 70 feet. I think like 15, 17, 18 meters, something like that. They are big whales, the largest of the toothed whales, actually. And dwarf sperm whales, like pygmy sperm whales, so pygmy sperm whales and dwarf sperm whales were at one point thought to be the same species, the same animal, but they are actually different species. Now, the interesting thing with these whales are they ink. I don't know if you can hear this bloody bin truck, dump truck, but of course it has to come right now. You probably don't hear it anyway, so I'll pretend like it's not happening. Yeah, they ink. So if they're under distress, they will excrete this cloud of. It's like a real reddish, dark reddish ink, like a squid does. How crazy is that? They're the only cetacean that does it. And there is a video floating around of one of them. I don't know if it's a dwarf sperm whale or a pygmy sperm whale, but it comes flying through the water and hits some rocks and starts flapping around on the rocks. I don't know why it had beached itself. And then it's excreting ink, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's bleeding out. It's bleeding out. It's not bleeding out. It's inking because it's under distress." Um, so that's super interesting, and they're such weird whale. They're called pygmy sperm whales because they do resemble sperm whales in the head. Their dorsal fins are bigger in comparison to their bodies, and higher up on their body, further up their body than a sperm whale's. Um, but they're just cute. They look like a cute little sperm whale. And there's something weird as well. I just remembered with dwarf and pygmy sperm whales. They have false gill slits. I, I can't remember why. Like I said, I don't research any of these episodes when I come into them because I don't know, just kind of like I like talking about animals and I like telling people what I know about animals. So if I have to sit here and read about the animal before I talk about it, then anybody can do that. Why listen to a podcast with somebody that knows about animals if they don't really? They're just reading up about it. But yeah, they do have a false gill slit like a fish. And it's not gill slits like a shark where there's like four and over slits. I think it's just like this one sort of gill slit like a fish. Super super weird, and I'm not sure why they have that. That'll be something I'll be researching after this episode. That's for sure. But yeah, really cool. Now, sperm whales are bloody cool as well. Sperm whales are the largest of the toothed whales, and the story of Moby Dick by Herman Melville uh, was actually based on a true story of I and honestly I wish I can remember the name of the ship. It was the damn, it's going to come to me later. Oh, I've forgotten it. Maybe I should do some research before coming into these episodes. Jesus Christ. I nearly had it. Anyway, it'll come back to me. The Essex. It was called the Essex. Um, so what happened is the Essex it's a whaling ship. Now, sperm whales are the most prized of the whales because their head looks like that and is big like that because it contains a lot of oil to keep them buoyant and stable and level in the water. So, literally, when you catch a sperm whale, they would come to its head, and there is a reservoir of oil inside that head. So they were prized for that oil. They would use it for soap, lamps, you name it. Whale oil was a massive industry back then. So the Essex was out looking for sperm whales, and they went to a new uh, ground. They call it grounds, but even though it's in the ocean. So they actually traveled a little bit further out of their planned sort of route because there was talk of massive pods of sperm whales out there, and they are catching sperm whales, bam, 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 and they noticed a gigantic male bull sperm whale in that pod, and it rammed the boat, and they're trying to harpoon this thing, and it's disappearing, it's coming back. At one point, it raised its head out of the water so it could see, and just stared the boat down for ages. And everyone was like, what is wrong with this sperm whale? Is there something wrong with it? And then, boom, it actually sunk the ship. It rammed it to the point that the Essex sunk, and that's a whole other story as well. The people that survived stranded at sea, they had to shoot each other, eat each other, things like that. But that is a true story. Moby Dick was based on that whale that sunk the Essex, and Captain Ahab's got a vendetta against it. It wasn't white in color like the story of Moby Dick, but it was apparently huge, bigger than any other sperm whale these people had seen. And you know what? It's not the first time a bull sperm whale has sunk ships. It's happened a few times. And can you blame them? Hell no. You know, you're out there killing family members. Man, I'm sinking your ship, brother. See you later. So, yeah, sperm whales. Really cool. Dwarf sperm whales. Really cool. All right. Oh, and another thing with sperm whales, nearly forgot, and this is just recently come out, that they actually have. So humans are really, well, as far as we know, the only animal that actually has a language per se. A lot of animals have vocalizations that mean certain things, but not necessarily an alphabet where a pattern actually means like a word kind of deal. But they recently discovered with sperm whales, and this is probably true for all the cetaceans, that they found a pattern with, because sperm whales don't do your typical whale noises. They vocalize in clicks, so they don't have like the kind of deal. They vocalize in clicks, and scientists have found that sperm whales clicks have a pattern that is basically equal to a language. So like two clicks, one long click means a word, and they'll hear a another whale respond, and it gets way more intricate than that. Like they do have a language, and whales are super interesting as well because they've actually found that whales have from different areas, but still the same species, actually have dialects, like different dialect. They have accents depending on which area they're from. Like how crazy is that? They actually not necessarily, well, they may speak a different language depending on where they're from, even though they're the same species, but they do have accents. And sometimes when a whale from a different location is introduced to another whale, um, they have trouble communicating. So I can't understand what this guy's saying. How amazing is that? And there is also there's a bit of competition between who has the loudest vocalization. So your baleen whales, like your humpback whales, your right whales, grey whales, and the blue whale, they vocalize with sustained, high pitched kind of, and also low pitched sounds. And low pitched travels further underwater than high pitched. And the blue whale can hit, oh, what was it, 180 decibels? It's 180 decibels in some of their songs. So to put that into context, a jet aeroplane taking off hits about 140 decibels. A Metallica concert is about 115 to 130 decibels. So the blue whale hitting 180, that's insane. Then you look at the sperm whale, and some of their vocalizations, some of their clicks and other vocalizations has been recorded at about 200 to 210 decibels. I mean, if you were in the water next to that, it'd probably rupture your bloody organs. How incredible is that? So cool. They're bloody loud. Anyway, Jen's got another story, and let's hear it. All right.
Hello, Adam. It's Jennifer again. This time I wanted to tell a little story about Vixen. Vixen was an Atlantic rough-toothed dolphin who was in facility and hospital the same time as Simone. She was a juvenile rough-toothed dolphin. She stranded on Christmas and she was alone when she stranded. So we were never certain exactly why she stranded. She did have a very heavy parasite burden, but that's not uncommon in dolphins. However, sometimes the parasite burden can become so large that it impedes their ability to use their inner ear, and so it can sometimes impede their ability to use sonar. And sometimes that's believed that that's the reason that dolphins will strand. It also could have just been that, somehow she was isolated from her pod. She was found herself alone and stranded. But she was an amazing animal. She was incredibly intelligent. She was bright and playful and really truly enjoyed interacting with people. I never got to get in the tank with Vixen because I worked with Simone and we couldn't allow any potential, cross contamination from tank to tank. However, we did spend a fair amount of time at tankside with her. She had a lot of vinyl enrichment toys, and she would frequently sleep with a large vinyl starfish sitting directly on top of her head, and she would float around the tank either clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on which hemisphere of her brain was resting at the moment. But she was, again, incredibly interactive with people. And if you came up to the tank side, she would immediately go and get one of her vinyl toys and bring it over to you. And she wanted you to throw it or play with it or just do something. And so one day while I was there, my husband came to visit and we were hanging out playing with Vixen. And she had an immediate fondness for him and just wanted to be rubbed and petted by him. And she rolled over on her back and he was petting her and just having a good time and she was enjoying it. And I noticed that her belly had started to flush pink, but I was not aware enough of what was going on to make a statement or tell him what was going on. And suddenly one of her caretakers came over and said, "You need to stop petting her where you're petting her. You see how her belly is flushing pink? Her belly is flushing pink because she is getting sexually aroused by you petting her on the belly where you're petting her." And so my husband immediately yanked his hand back and turned just as pink as Vixen. And he remembered that story and talked about it forever, the time that he accidentally sexually aroused a dolphin.
uh, when I first heard that, I knew exactly how that was going to turn out. Let me just check that this is still rolling because just do my. Oh yeah, fantastic. Um, okay, so whoever immediately I think of that episode of King of the Hill, where Hank Hill gets the coupon to swim with the dolphin at La Grunta, their resort slash golf course. Luann buys him a gift voucher, and he's like, oh god. He didn't really want to. He wanted a free game of golf, but he goes swimming with this dolphin, and he's like, "Oh, this is great!" Oh, and yep, ends up getting sexually assaulted by the dolphin. Same thing. He rubs its belly. It has a flash of pinky red, and it's on, and it traumatizes Hank Hill. But that is so similar. It just instantly reminded me that it's hell funny. And he's like, "Go, God damn it!" Anyway, that's the thing with dolphins. Like, dolphins are one of those animals that do have sex for pleasure. They are endlessly intelligent creatures, and with intelligence, it seems comes horniness. Look at chimpanzees, bonobos especially. Your cetaceans, your dolphins are so smart that they. Now, it may sound wrong, and it is, where there was a dolphin trainer slash scientist that was studying a dolphin, and she, over time, noticed that this dolphin, male dolphin, was getting sexually interested in her. And, yep, she would let it do its thing with her. She would have relations with the dolphin. Now, although it was mutually consensual, it's still messed up, man. Jesus. Come on. But it happens. Interspecial relationships. I mean, I guess they're clean. They're hairless, you know. It's but nah, that's not that ain't right. There's no justifying it. It ain't right. But thanks so much, Jen, for those stories. They're bloody awesome, and it's still it still brings joy to my heart that there are people out there doing stuff like that, and facilities out there that do look after cetaceans that have been abandoned, or like this one, separated from its pod, because dolphins are very social animals. They absolutely are, and that raises the question of, why do cetaceans beach themselves? And there's a lot of theories behind that. Like Jen was saying, an overload of parasites can interfere with that inner ear and cause them to have their sort of sonar out of whack, and they get lost. They're almost driving blind. And that's why they think a lot of whales, like you, especially pilot whales and things like that, why they strand themselves, because of naval ships, their sonar interfering with the whales' infrasound and sonar, and it disrupts them. They're driving with a faulty GPS and end up beaching themselves. And when a few of them beach, they all seem to beach themselves. And people will go out there, get them back in the ocean, and 9 times out of 10, they turn around and beach themselves again. It is so common with pilot whales. It happened only a few weeks ago here, just maybe 40 minutes from here. A bunch of pilot whales did that. It's very sad, but and I think they're sort of going to measures to restrict naval training exercises in whale grounds and marine sanctuaries, which is good, but it's still, yeah, it bloody sucks. I mean, the whales have been dealt a bad hand with the whaling, and now they can't even swim without stuff interfering with them. And you know what? Yesterday, a whale got caught in shark nets over eastern Australia in Queensland, and completely wrapped itself up in this net, and it's just floating at the surface. It was only a matter of time until it tired itself out and ended up drowning. Now, two paddleboarders saw it and paddled out there, got in the water, got their knife out, cut this whale free. Right? Risking their own lives in the water, because all it takes is one of its, flukes to hit a human, and that's them gone. But they cut this whale free, and it swam away. It lived. Okay. Now the government wants to fine these two men $30,000 because we have laws that you can't get in the water within 30 feet of a whale. And also, so fine them for that, and also fine them for damaging and tampering with the shark nets. If that isn't insane to you, I don't know what is. Like that is criminal. Not what they did, but what the government may do. Now, I'm skeptical whether or not they would they will get fined, because that would cause outrage over here. Um, that would be absolutely just that would make me lose so much faith in the government, even more so. But those men are heroes, right? Absolute heroes, and there's no way they would pay that fine. There would be a crowdfunding page within the minute, with people donating to pay that bloody fine, and I absolutely would, because that's just unreal. But just the fact that, tampering with a shark nets, there's no proof that they actually work. Like, well, how can it not work? It's a big net that stops sharks coming in. I'm like, yeah, well, sharks can swim around them, and whether or not the beach is completely enclosed with that net, just with the swell and push them over them, wedge themselves under. So, how do you know it's reduced shark attacks? Well, we've got a net there. Yeah, but that's like me going, I'm in Australia where there are no elephants native. I've got this alarm system that sends waves out that stops elephants coming into my house. Well, how do you know it works? Oh, because I haven't seen any elephants here. It's like, well, you know what I mean? It's that, you know, it yeah, anyway, getting off topic here. But heroes amongst cetaceans, and we need more of that. And that raises the question of like SeaWorld and things like that. Now, I don't like preaching about conservation. I don't. Even though it is so important, and my stance on conservation is it is probably the top of importance to me. But I find when I preach conservation to people, it does bore them, and it sucks, but it does. So I tend to educate people about animals to the point where they can see how cool animals are and how amazing they are, and naturally they will want to conserve them and save that species. And zoos, there are a lot of opinions on zoos, um, and my stance on zoos are they are good. Some of them are good. Some of them are crappy zoos, and there are animals that should not be kept in zoos. Zoos are great at having ambassadors for their species, where people can come see this animal and go, that is amazing. I want to do more to help this animal. Zoos also contribute to breeding programs. But then there's that question of like, oh yeah, we've got a breeding program for this endangered animal. And it's like, okay, but they're not releasing them back into the wild. They're just sending them to other zoos. So that's of no importance conservationally. That offers no importance. Like, well, we can breed these animals, yeah, but you're not releasing them back into the wild. You're not rewilding them. But Perth Zoo here, I went. I haven't been to the zoo in about 10 years, and I went to Perth Zoo a couple of weeks ago, and I was a little disappointed, to be honest. There were some great enclosures, but others just lacked, and I think they could do better. They spent a lot of money on a giant restaurant in the zoo, where I think they might have benefited, uh, revamping some of the enclosures. But hey, it's a learning experience for them. Unfortunately, it's the animal that has to suffer. So SeaWorld and things like that, they keep captive orcas and dolphins. I don't think any cetacean should be kept in captivity at all. Blanket statement, no. Um, Obviously, in Jen's case, that's completely different because they are rescued and they're being rehabilitated. But as terms of captive animals caught for captivity, no, they shouldn't. They are too intelligent and they are too social and they need too much space. That's why you have orcas, no case of a killer whale, orca, killing a human being in the wild. In captivity, yes, there's been several. Because they are so intelligent, and like humans, you keep a super intelligent being coped up in a little room for years and being demanded to do tricks and things like that, yeah, you're going to get some resentment. Same as the elephants, like I was talking about last week. Same thing. They grow to resent their trainers, and they do get a little psychotic. They do have mental health problems, and unfortunately, that results in a trainer being dragged to the bottom of the tank and roughhoused. So if like you just need to see that last statement that I just said, that last fact, that no orca has ever killed a human being that we know of. That is a credible documentation. No killer whale in the wild has killed and eaten a human or killed a human in the wild, but in captivity, it has happened a few times. So that's saying something, right? And they are so social. They have massive family groups. Um, and like the transial orcas, they they swim vast distances. The calves are raised by aunties, by grandmothers. They're surrounded by family. They're not meant to be kept in isolation like that with maybe another buddy, and then at night they get separated into tiny little ponds. So there is a time and a place for captive animals, and cetaceans. I don't think they belong in captivity. It's just never a good outcome, right? Anyway, I didn't mean to depress everyone with that, but it's the truth. All right. Anyway, I was going to talk about some other stuff. Oh yeah, I've got my dog's giant poodle. My dog's giant poodle. My parents' giant poodle. I'm looking after her at the moment, Lulu. She's a black standard poodle. They've gone on holiday, and I'm looking after Lulu, and my brother is looking after their other dog, who's a puppy. Poppy is another giant poodle. And Lulu's pretty chill. She's getting old. She's about 11 or 12 years old, and she's fine. She's a good girl. But Poppy, yesterday, just chewed up about $1,000 worth of my brother's stuff. They left the house and come back, and she's chewed up a handbag, a book, and all my brother's Nintendo Switch games. So, yeah, I tried to look after Poppy. We, my parents brought her around for a little trial to see how she went on with my dogs, and Ollie, my little orange Pomeranian, would not stop having sex with her. Would not stop. It was it was hard to watch. It was I didn't like seeing that. You don't want to I see them as my family members, my dogs. You don't want to see one of your family members on the job, do you? So I was like, nah, this is, and it was bugging Poppy. It was bugging her, and absolutely it would. So after 2 hours, I called up my dad. I was like, look, this ain't gonna work. We're gonna have to have Lulu, and Scott can have Poppy. So he come around and pick her up. So Ollie got his rocks off for 2 hours straight, and Poppy got traumatized. So yeah, I'm surprised Lulu's not in here. She follows me around everywhere. She's a funny dog. Anyway, I'm just trying to think if there's any other. I mean, there's a million fascinating things about whales, and even the fact that they're grouped in the same order as lots of other land mammals just goes to show, like, these animals at one point were. All right, I'm going to get into this because this is super interesting. The evolution of whales is pretty crazy. So, one of the theories is that it started off as a ground dwelling looking mammal type thing, became aquatic, evolved into animals that we see like the Basilosaurus, which looks kind of like similar but very different to your typical mosasaurs and things like that, but they still look different, but similar design. Our Basilosaurus was huge, massive long tail. It was a predator. It was the apex predator at the time, had big teeth. Then they think it may have it split and lineage wise became land dwelling again and looked similar to like kind of wolfy like animal. And then it split and went back into the water and turned into whales. Now that was a very like lineal explanation, but we're talking over millions of years, hundreds of million years, splitting off, branching off, speciating, and things like that. But it started off on land, became aquatic, came back onto land, then became aquatic again, and that's the whales that we have now. Now, if you look at a skeleton of a whale or a cetacean of any type, um, they have. If you look at their flukes, the pectoral flukes, they are arms and hands. They split into 5 fingers. Their tail fin has like, I mean, a perfect example is if you look at a beluga whale. Beluga whales don't have knees because there are some photos floating around. Oh, look at its knees. It's not actually its knees; they're fat pads. But you can see where its legs vestigial once were. Um, Obviously, their tail flukes and stuff aren't their legs, but you can see vestigial tails on legs on them, and it's pretty fascinating because that's when you realize that wow, they are mammals. You know, they are like us. They are air breathing mammals, and you can only really see that by looking at their skeletons, and it's pretty trippy, to be honest. And with your dolphins, as Jen was saying, swimming in certain directions uh, by what hemisphere was awake at that time. So what you might not know is dolphins are conscious breathers. I know I'm all over the place here, but I'm just spitballing with you. Dolphins are conscious breathers, so they actually have to, instead of humans, like we breathe just naturally when we're asleep, when we're awake, our body just naturally breathes. Our heart naturally pumps blood. We don't have to consciously tell our heart to pump. Dolphins, with their breathing, they have to consciously breathe. So they actually have to go, okay, I need to take a breath of air now and go and take a breath of air. And what happens while they're sleeping? So when they're sleeping, one side of their brain will stay awake, just enough to let them go and take breaths, enough to prompt them to breathe. And the hemispheres of the brains will take turns in which one sleeps, which one doesn't. So what's that Metallica song, Enter Sandman? Sleep with one eye open, gripping your starfish tight. You know, a little throwback to the Dolphins toy starfish. Fucking genius. Damn it, I wasn't going to swear in this episode. I let that one slide. God damn it, now I have to put a bloody thing on the when I upload it. Anyway, that's pretty interesting. And going back to captivity, one of the dolphins that played Flipper, they did an interview with its trainer, and I know one of them might have been released, or they tried to release it, but it was wild caught, this dolphin. But it was unhappy in captivity. Now, I'm not probably not telling the story right, but this is sort of the roughly how it went. The dolphin was that unhappy when the trainer was in the water with it. It was sick of being in captivity. It was sick of whatever it had to do, and it committed suicide. The trainer thinks it committed suicide, and he knew this dolphin best. Whether it did or not, it's kind of anthropomorphizing it, putting human traits and emotions into an animal, but they are that intelligent. Humans are intelligent creatures, some of us. So you can kind of, maybe vaguely get a glimpse of what it might have done. And because they are conscious breathers, he said it just looked at him. It was very depressed, took exhaled its last breath, and just decided it's not going to breathe again, and it died. Uplifting story. Jesus Christ. But that's, how smart and emotionally versatile they are. They are so emotional. And there are some theories that dolphins, which includes orcas are in family Delphinidae, so they are the largest of the dolphins. They may be smarter than humans. I know for a fact some of them are smarter than some humans, but the way their brain works and what they can do is incredible. Now, obviously, there is no comparison because we live different lives. They wouldn't be smart at accounting, but we wouldn't be smart at uh, toiling around with they're creating light sometimes when they blow bubbles and spin it. They do it in a way that causes what is it? Something like cold fusion or something like that. And they just use them as toys. They blow bubbles, pick them up, spin them. They do certain things, and the cavitation bubble causes light. Can't remember what it is. Might have been cold fusion, something like that. But they're just toying around with it as a play toy. It took us a long time to figure out cold fusion. So smart in different ways, but their intelligence power might surpass a human's, which is pretty damn crazy. And back to what Jen was saying about the parasites. Sometimes cetaceans will swim into fresh water briefly to get rid of parasites. Obviously, these are internal ones, but external parasites um, that can only live in salt water. Once they go into fresh water, after a little while, the parasites will die, and then they'll swim back into fresh water. And that's when you get some whales that get lost in that fresh water. Why a whale ended up in the Thames River in London. And also, a whale was found in the jungles of the Amazon, which isn't necessarily true. It wasn't in the jungle. They're just the photos that were taken of this whale dead. There was jungle around it. So it had swam close to fresh water into an estuary. The water had receded. The whale was stuck in a mangrovey jungle area, and people come along and find it, and the water's ages away, and they're like, oh, there's a whale in the jungle. But that's probably what it was doing. It was swimming into fresh water to kill parasites. So, yeah, they are very clever animals. And I think that's all I can really say about cetaceans. Now, again, if you want to help me out and help this podcast out, I'm not asking you to donate money. I don't have a Patreon. I do have merch, as if you're watching this, you can see I'm wearing, that you can buy. But you know what? If you don't want to buy any merch, just help me out by giving us a rating. Subscribe and rate the podcast. I said us like it was this is a multi-person deal. And as if you probably listened to the podcast or watched it, you know that it is not professionally produced by any stretch of the imagination. Hell, I'm holding a T-Rex bone as my microphone holder. But that actually helps it heaps. It boosts it up to the point where maybe at some point in the future, I can make a membership kind of option where you'll get an extra episode a week and little bonuses, but there will always be an episode a week that will be free to anybody. So regardless of that, you can just maybe pay a couple bucks a week and get another episode a week. That's all. But yeah, check out the website, like and subscribe. And I hope you like this episode. If you have any interesting stories about animals or questions, preferably send it in a voice recording. You can do that on your phone and just DM it to me or email it to me, adam@biothorn.com.au. You can send me a voice note on Messenger, or you can record on your phone and send it to me or email it to me. Anyway, or if you don't want to do that, just message it to me or email it to me, and I'll answer it or talk about it on one of the episodes. But thanks, Jen, for those awesome stories, and yeah, I will see you, or you will hear me, on next week's episode of Thorn's Jungle. Take care, everyone. Have an awesome weekend.